So this time it is the final qualification heat for Senior Max, and it's groups A and C. On the front row it is Jason Lockwood and Nelson King, with Clayton Ravenscroft making it a British top three, with Dylan LaHaye in fourth alongside Ravenscroft, the two main title protagonists side by side in this encounter, ahead of Will Jenkins and Matilda Olsson from Sweden, who rounds out the top six. Sam Harrison and James Lingard on row 4, Guilherme de Oliveira and Fabian Bock on row number 5, completing the top 10. Completing the top 20, it is Kieran Gifford, Lewis Gilbert, Nick van der Mosselaar, Felix Varget, Clementine Benoit, Maxime Turiev, Mario Sidler, Bram Osavada, Ehad Turka and Endo Shogo from Japan. Rounding out the 29 strong, it's Tim Mikametz from Germany, Vincent van Kerkhoffen from Belgium, Ben Donkin from the UK, and then a trio of Dutch drivers in the form of Emily de Hoys, Yash Ramjan Khan, and then Sen Rudenberg with Oscar Hall, Patrick Rundqvist, and Georgios Beresis rounding out the 29 strong. Again, the timer has been reset to 7 minutes plus one additional lap here. This final of the 3 qualifying heats. So they now go on to the formation lap. And the spray from the rear wet weather Mojo tyres, very much all in plain sight to see from every single competitor, particularly as they're going through turns 2 and as they bump their way over the curbs through turn number 3. And the unpredictability factor has gone up to another fold, as it was bad enough in qualifying. And the track dry started to sort of peter out a little bit with no rainfall really happening. But now it's a completely different situation this afternoon. So it's Lockwood, King, Ravenscroft, LaHaye, Jenkins, Olsson, Harrison, Lingard, de Oliveira and Bock. That is the top 10. The top 28 after the group qualifying stages through 3 heats, which each driver takes part in 2 of, will go automatically to our last race of the day as part of the top 28 qualifiers. And then we have a 6-minute shootout plus 1 lap for the second chance heat, where the top 8 out of 15 drivers will make it through. So the red lights ignite on the starting gantry once again. They get into the 2x2 rolling start formation. The Rotax engines roar into life as they push the throttle down hard, and we go lights out, and there's an absolute deluge of spray heading into turn 1 for the first time. And I'm just keeping an eye on what's happening here, as we have had an incident, as one driver looks to have a Nassau plate that is facing to the left-hand side and not tracking to the front. So that driver's race already compromised, and that driver's trying to put it back into position. Looks to be, I'm not too sure who that is. That I looked at that, and that looked to be a 384 there. I might very much be mistaken. That could be Sam Harrison. Not 100% sure. So they tentatively make their way through into turn 8, and there is a standing water puddle. We'll actually call it a river on the inside of turn 8 on the exit of it, as it looks to be a KR Sport 1-2 coming down into turn 10 for the first time of asking. And the driver that is on the side, well, actually adjacent to the straightaway, it is Clayton Ravenscroft ahead of Jason Lockwood. And then we've got Nelson King down in 3rd place as the drivers come around the final corner to complete lap number 1. As several other drivers, looks like Georgios Beresis and Yash Ramajankan, were battling over position. That was for 25th. But Ravenscroft now has a 7/10 of a second lead over Lockwood. King in 3rd and is closing down on the 3:15 from the UK. Matilda Olsson is now ahead of Dylan LaHaye, who is starting to fall a little bit further back, as that's a brazen move, Nelson King. You sent it right up the inside of Jason Lockwood, who retaliates after King's adventure through the puddles through turn 5, and Lockwood retaliates and gets back past through turn 6, as LaHaye gets back past Matilda Olsson for 4th position. Now it is a case of what can Ravenscroft do to help his title aspirations. He was on the back foot after yesterday as the rest of the field clatters their way over the curbs on the inside of turn number 7. So Lockwood now in second place as LaHaye is closing down on Nelson King, bringing Matilda Olson along with. And James Lingard looks to be a little bit further back from that. Those few at the front. And just behind looks to be Will Jenkins. So Will Jenkins has got past Felix Varget from Belgium. As Nelson King has just been passed by Dylan LaHaye. And there's more overtakings happening as Jenkins and Gifford were going side by side into turns 1 and 2. And with the amount of rain that's falling, it's difficult to pick out the numbers there at the minute. But Dylan LaHaye still keeping ahead of some in front, but is trying to minimise the amount of points distance that Clayton Ravenscroft will have in terms of closing him down in terms of the championship standings. And we'll find out a little bit later on who they are in terms of our 6 champions for 2019. And I'm sure that Siobhan and Joe Turney are probably watching at the moment, seeing who's going to be the person that takes over as the Senior Max champion in 2019 with Joe Turney's dominant display last year when I first came to be a part of the BNL karting series, as that was very, very close indeed between Ravenscroft and Lockwood, as Lockwood has closed up on the 399 for the lead of the race. The gap last time was nearly a second and a half. So Team Mika Metz opted not to carry on, and that was Patrick Rundqvist, and unfortunately has retired on the first lap, not making it past effectively turn 4, as Ravenscroft is trying to keep himself in front and try and keep Dylan LaHaye away at the minute, as Jason Lockwood will be a sort of a buffer for the 399 from the UK. Both teammates at KR Sport, both Brits, as there are people just trying to get the optimum run going through turns 2, 3 and 4 and having to counter-attack the spray as best they can. It's not easy out there for these drivers as we go into the last 2 minutes and 41 seconds of this race, plus an additional lap. Jason Lockwood goes a little bit wide, probably trying to use that to carry the momentum through turn 7, whereas Ravenscroft was taking a tighter line there. So other drivers that have made positional gain, well, there's been a little bit of a nigh on clattering together through turn 7, a little bit further down the order, but Ravenscroft continues to lead the field and was over half a second ahead of Lockwood, who has closed down the gap, and it's probably going to be around about 3 or 4 tenths, maybe 0.369 there. So Lockwood really getting a motor on, was actually quicker than Ravenscroft, and has set the fastest lap of this race, a 1 minute 14.439, and that was on lap number 3 as Ravenscroft bounces off the curbs, as does Lockwood through turn 3. Now into turn 4 go the 2 Brits leading the way. Dylan LaHaye still staying resolute in 3rd place and has dropped Nelson King. Matilda Olson looking a bit lonely in 5th position, but is still getting to grips with this Sodi kart chassis ahead of the grand finals in 2 weeks' time. So other drivers that have made positional gains, that would include Sam Harrison and Ehad Turka, who are now up into 22nd and 23rd respectively. Guilherme de Oliveira has got past Russia's Maxim Turiev for 12th place. Kieran Gifford now past James Lingard up into 6th position. And there is someone else who's got a front Nassau that is out of position quite clearly. And it's... in terms of tracking, it's tracking a bit to the left, so you might get a bit of a pull on the steering, but it might be difficult because that covers the actual steering column on these karts. And Lockwood now dropping a little bit further back as we go into the last 40 or so seconds. And who is that with that front Nassau that's out of place? That is Sam Harrison. How is he battling on all the way through this race? And he is currently 22nd, and he's still driving as if his life depended on it. It's going to be an easy fix to get that sorted post-race, but not the best of conditions, because that's basically meaning that the rain is hitting his knees, his shins and his feet, and those are going to be very, very sodden and wet at the end of this race. The top 3 starting to bunch up a little bit as we now have the timer expiring now. That's it. Time's expired, 7 minutes are up as they go through turn number 9 for the penultimate time of this race. Ravenscroft has held on and has actually kept Lockwood at bay. So this time round, the number 399 of Clayton Ravenscroft will take the final lap board. Now, I'm just trying to see from my commentary position, there is a different board being shown. There might be an under investigation in progress. So, last lap board is shown first to Clayton Ravenscroft, whose gap now is just under half a second in front of Jason Lockwood. Takes a tighter line through turn 2, going to the outside to carry the momentum. He's trying to send it up the inside and nearly clatters into Ravenscroft through turn 3. That's not what the 399 wants to happen. And one thing they say in racing, do not take out your teammate. And the main thing is that Ravenscroft is battling with the guy in third position, Dylan LaHaye, for the overall title. Lockwood, I know, wants to get a win, but that could have been just maybe an incident where the grip just went and Lockwood couldn't do anything about it. I'm not too sure. You'd have to ask Jason Lockwood about that one. But the leaders come through turn 8 for the final time. Dylan LaHaye is actually closing on Jason Lockwood. The gap between them was quite a big distance last time around, about a second, and he's closed that down significantly as there's more drivers just clattering over the curbs again on turn 7. But we're about to conclude the final qualifying heat, and through turn number 11 comes Clayton Ravenscroft leading the way. Jason Lockwood's got to hold on now for one more corner to mean that Dylan LaHaye will stay in third position at the flag. The checkered flag will now wave. Clayton Ravenscroft from the UK, the 399 from KR Sport, takes the win ahead of Jason Lockwood. Dylan LaHaye takes third. Nelson King looks to have taken fourth there. Matilda Olsson in 5th place. So just waiting for the timing to just briefly reset, but Clayton Ravenscroft has helped his challenge at this point. So apologies there, we've just had the timing go off. Not too sure what happened. Obviously the atmospherics are not playing any help here at the circuit, so bear with us. So Clayton Ravenscroft finished ahead of Jason Lockwood with Dylan LaHaye rounding out the top 3. Nelson King was in 4th place. And it looks like Matilda Olsson 5th. The 359 was, so you got 359, 330, 334, running a little bit blind here at the moment. So the drivers now finding their way through into the Parc Fermé. So just going to go silent for a moment, so bear with us.